Hello, hello, and welcome to my show. Thank you. Thank you all very much. And thank you all for coming out. Today's episode is entitled, We Don't Shun You, You Shun Us. First of all, are you aware that Jehovah's Witnesses do not shun?
What
I know, weird, eh? But if you've ever been to JW.org, and I hope you haven't, you'll see this for yourself. In fact, let's all check it out together. I've highlighted the part I want you to see in blue. It is funny, isn't it? And yet, when forced to testify under oath at the Australian Royal High Commission just a few months ago, governing body member Jeffrey Jackson admitted that JWs are not allowed to associate with disfellowshipped or disassociated members. Let's check it out on the clip right here.
And it's right, isn't it, in the case of both disassociation and disfellowshipping, the remaining members of the Jehovah's Witnesses cannot associate with the disassociated or disfellowshipped person.
Yes, that's according to the Bible principles, which I'm sure you've already read.
And that it's even family members not living in the same household. Freedom from the organization on the one hand and friends, family and social network on the other.
They're not content to just stop with this lie, but they say that not only do they not shun us, but that we shun them. You like that? So I think about the time when I was coming out of my office and I was waiting for a taxi, and one of my former best JW friends was coming towards me, and she went like this so that she didn't have to look at my face. All the time it was me shunning her. And then I think about the time at my dad's funeral, or memorial, as they like to call it. And this old busybody called up my mom, who is now a widow, and told her that she was going to be having a tea in the back of the Kingdom Hall and that I wasn't welcome. And that if I tried to crash her party, that everybody would have to leave. So that was me again, shunning them. Wow, I'm pretty good. Because all the time that I was at my dad's funeral and I was feeling all alone and isolated and dejected, nobody coming up to say anything to me, all that time it was me shunning them. You know, it just makes me sick that they can try to flip it around on us like that. But that must be their latest strategy in trying to play the victim. If you want to see where they're saying this, it's actually in their latest Watchtower magazine, the February 2016 magazine. Let's have a look at it together. We read here about a JW named Anne, probably a fictional person, by the way, who received a telephone call from her disfellowship mother. The mother wanted to visit Anne because she felt pained by her isolation from the family. Anne was deeply distressed by the plea and promised to reply by letter. It says that before responding by letter, she reviewed Bible principles. In other words, there's no verse in the Bible that says to shun. There's no thou shalt shun, and not just because it's too hard to say that. So what they do then is they scour the entire Bible, trying to find any scripture that supports their twisted and bitter claim. Anne wrote and kindly reminded her mother that she had cut herself off from the family by her wrongdoing and unrepentant attitude. The only way you can relieve your pain is by returning to Jehovah, Anne wrote. Isn't that sick? You know, I really dislike people like that. I'll be your friend, but insert condition here. Buy my kids cookies. I'll be your daughter, but, yeah, big but. Notice it said that the mother was feeling pained and wanted to visit her daughter. Doesn't sound like someone who was shunning her daughter, does it? It said that the daughter reviewed Bible principles, and then the article cites 1 Corinthians 5, verse 11, where it basically says to stop keeping company with anyone called a brother, not even eating with such a man. The thing is, she's not calling herself a brother or a sister. She's not a JW anymore, so this verse just simply doesn't apply to her anymore. The other scripture cited is 2 John verses 9 to 11, which basically says that if anyone comes to you and does not bring this teaching, do not receive him into your homes or say a greeting to him, for the one who says a greeting to him is a sharer in his wicked works. You may have noticed that I added verses 7 and 8 to this passage, and the reason is that we don't know who this is talking about. We don't have the context. Because if you take these scriptures that they show you at face value, when it says, if anyone comes to you and does not bring this teaching, well, that's basically every single person outside of their organization. But once we see who he was talking about, and he's referring to the Antichrist, we now have a context. So I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that this Anne's mother is not the Antichrist. You know, JWs love to paint everyone with the same brush. They disfellowship somebody for smoking, and they disfellowship another person for murder. And how are these people treated? They are shunned. People may not have any clue why some of these people are being disfellowshipped, but they're all to be treated the same way. And I bet it's not because they were the Antichrist. I love how this Anne allegedly cherry-picked these two obscure verses when she was reviewing Bible principles, yet ignored the more than a dozen verses in the Bible where she was told to honor her parents. She also somehow ignored the verses in 2 Thessalonians 3, verses 14 and 15, where we were told to consider someone who is not obedient to the word not as an enemy, but continue admonishing him as a brother. This is a really important verse to remember whenever JWs say that they need to shun, because we can see that they don't. When examining Bible principles, you need to try to figure out, well, what is the overall message? What example did Jesus set? How many people did he shun?
0.
Exactly. He didn't shun anybody. He gave us the example of the prodigal shun. Oh, sorry, it wasn't prodigal shun. It was prodigal son, whose father welcomed him back before he even knew whether his son was repentant or not. You know, the JW organization really reminds me of the older son in that story, who was all bitter and miserable when his brother came back. They would rather see us be humiliated and shunned. But try as they might, there's not even one example in the entire Bible of anyone ever shunning anyone else. And the message that Jesus gave was that true Christians not just love their friends, but they love their enemies. And he severely condemned those who tried to judge others. Did you know that even the JW organization describes shunning as a tactic that runs counter to the Bible? Let's check it out here in the June 2013 Awake magazine. Under the subheading Retaliation, it says that some spouses use silence as a form of revenge. And under the next subheading, Manipulation, it tells us that others use it as a means to get what they want. It says that the husband gives his wife the silent treatment, shunning her, in the hope that she will break down and concede to his wishes. Retaliation and manipulation. Sounds like an abusive relationship, doesn't it? It further goes on to say that the first step is to recognize it for what it is, a tactic. Is that really how you want to treat someone whom you vow to love? The final paragraph says that the silent treatment, or shunning, runs counter to the Bible's admonition to love each other, and that it is unacceptable. So they actually come right out and say that shunning is a tactic used for retaliation or manipulation, and that it goes against the Bible's message. This is one time when I can honestly say that I really do agree with the Watchtower publication. Oh, I know that they say that they don't shun, but as we can see, they do. And their own governing body member, Jeffrey Jackson, agreed that shunning is a practice that they do. And not only do they do it, but they lie and say that they don't, and then they cowardly try and pin it on those whom they shun. If you've wondered if this practice is going to end, I'm really sorry to say that it looks like it's not, because that same governing body member, Jeffrey Jackson, was asked that question at that Royal High Commission. Let's see what his response was.
Is there a basis upon which you foresee that your organization might be able to change that policy?
No.
So there it is. If shunning were truly in the Bible, the organization should be proud of it and should stand behind it. Instead, they lie about it and then try and pin it on former members. It's a really sick and cruel tactic that has ruined thousands of people's lives, and countless families have been destroyed by it. So what can you do if you're a victim of this type of shunning? Well, I'm going to make a future episode all about this. So thank you very much for watching my video, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye.